Teachers, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hey everybody, look, I'm going to try to do this again. It might actually work for a change. So yeah, every time I hit a button and the show decides to crash and die, that's fun. Let's see, hopefully, it still says I'm not streaming yet. Oh, come on. Should be here. Oh, now it says it's streaming again. Yay, it's back up. Alright, so hopefully I can do this now without the whole show crashing and dying just because I look at it funny. Sorry about that, Hando. Sorry about that, Tromad. Yes, as per usual, I clicked the button to say time to do the show, and it decided to do the, oh, I'm dead now. That's fun. Yay, having two, I swear, USB devices and audio on this show. I want to burn it all and start over. Anyhow. So, welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You're listening to 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 12th of November, 2017. Unfortunately, Ken is not going to be joining us today. He got busy with things, as well as has a conflict in the office where he cannot come out. People are using his space, and so he figured he would still try to get in there and do stuff, but it's not going to work out. But that's okay. We are joined again this week by our friend Akko from Zenko Akko Cosplay, as we've been hanging out and doing things, and so we will do the show from our end here, not incorporating the Scottish Isles. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and kick things off with a little bit of
functional deviations.
Apologize again also that we are not on the audio stream because that apparently my streaming Shoutcast server through Alpha Geek Radio has failed me. And I have no idea how to fix that. I have contacted Gnomewise. Thought I got all the server details figured out for that, but it's broken. So the 24/7 server isn't doing anything. And essentially my show is nothing but YouTube now, and I need to talk to the other show hosts to see what they're doing to maintain their broadcasts. And so, yeah, who knows? Unless I figure this out, unless I hear otherwise from you guys, I don't know if this is the death knell for what we're doing. Oh, you shush. I'm trying to say that I'm not sending enough data fast enough? That's dumb. It is going fine. Anyhow, YouTube telling me that things aren't fast enough. Hopefully, though, you guys are all good and able to witness and hear us now. It looked like Hando, you said things were good, so I'm happy with that. All right, so kicking things off with this functional deviations, going to talk about what we've been up to in the last week or so. Wanted to start things off. Oh, I guess I'll wait on talking that one. Giving a quick update on cats. So anyone who's been following along, and I apologize if you have, yikes. The two feral kittens that I have been having plus and minus days, but thankfully, lately it's been more ups than downs, I would say. We had a opportunity last weekend where when Zenko, Akko, and Heidmeyer came over to watch some Stranger Things and kind of catch up with each other, we were able to bring the cats out and force them to do some socialization amongst the group. And I think that went pretty good. Hyde did a really remarkable job with Tetra, forcing her to kind of stay up close and personal and learn to be okay with pets. Midna had some challenges still, ended up ripping my arm apart and bloodying several of us. But in the aftermath of that kind of interaction, we went forward and threw them into essentially isolation. We put Midna into the weight room, set her up there with litter box, food, water, and everything, but basically took away the bed frame and stuff, so made it there was no place she could hide. There's some things she can get behind up, but there's no way she can actually burrow away and get away from our ability to capture her. With Tetra, we put her in my room and just kept her from being able to wander the house anymore, for better or worse. And essentially the idea behind this, and we'd mentioned it last week on the show, is to cause them to no longer be focused on each other for support as much as us as humans, mostly my cousin and I, and for them to have to understand that people do get access to them and that they can't just run away from everything. So those were the two major thoughts behind the process of kind of sequestering them and to their own areas. In doing so, Tetra is still skittish and basically will run away some. However, I did have some moments because she is the follower of the crew and definitely wants some attention. And in doing so, she has a need to kind of reach out and at least participate. So I noticed that she would start sleeping on the bed more. Now, granted, down by my feet or out of my reach, but each night of the last week. Got eventually to the point where I was able to pet her for a while and then put her in her bed and she didn't just run away. And finally to the point where she would start sleeping against my legs. And later slightly further up, and to the most recent, I had started petting her and had a good night, but then it reverts back and forth still a little bit, where I got to a point where she was doing like I actually like these scratches and will admit it, and I'm leaning back into the hand to get more scratches and such, which was adorable, and one of those few moments where it started to crack the little shell I've been building up around them not loving me, and therefore me feeling like I'm just their caretaker, I guess. And so that actually started to feel like, oh, maybe there's a chance. So Tetra's been good for that. She's still skittish, still runs away. I know that Hostel is not a big fan in the fact that she'll just run off from him. He can't seem to get a hold of her. Trying not with Tetra to forcibly grab her and pull her in.
That's a big one.
Separately, though, Midna, who is no question the more willful of the two, and I think it's appropriate, Akko and I talk often about, as a whole, things from personality types, but also character classes. We've been doing a lot of referring to people stats in situations with D&D terms.
It helps a lot. It really does.
And in doing so, just the understanding and being able to communicate. But Midna has very high willpower. And I don't know if it's a stat that fits, but patience. Definitely has patience. When we'd hang out and where it caused my ripped arm, would hang out and let you pet and start purring and just wait until your guard would go down.
For hours.
Yes, could be hours. And at which point she would say, and now is my opportunity to escape. Goodbye. And once she would actually go to escape, it was like all claws and paws down, I'm out of here. Which again caused ripped arm, which I showed last week. So putting her in the room without anywhere to hide, because the other thing, we initially put her in the bathroom and she just shook. Just was constantly like shaking and heart rate was high. It was not necessarily good. But in a way, we actually believe it was the right thing. Because she needed to find a place where she couldn't run away. And she needed to be somewhere where, she couldn't burrow, couldn't get away, and realize that people are there. And in doing so, eventually she broke. Is the best way I could say. Or
not
somewhat.
in a bad way.
Yeah, not in a bad way. But she got away from the, no, I'm living here and doing my thing, and you're just an annoyance that's here, to the, oh, you're the alpha, I am not, essentially. And we can now hold her and pretty easily go get her. She still, I think, believes that communication with humans starts with a hiss. And we'll just hiss at me, and then I can walk up and still just kind of pick her up and grab her, and she stops hissing. So it's weird. I almost think it's more communication and thinking that that's what she's supposed to do than it is, like, this is, I'm mad at you or trying to scare you away. I don't know, it's weird.
Because she's never ever taken a swipe when she hisses. She's
No.
never tried to bite or even really struggle.
Neither of them have really tried to attack. It's mostly been, I'm running away, and happen to use their claws to try to get away.
Which is rare, because most cats, when they hiss, they're about to do some real pain.
Yeah, they're actually going to damage you. They're willing to do so. And so that's where it's interesting. But anyhow, the result of this action, and we've kept them separate for over a week now, is that Tetra's continued to get more comfortable and wanting attention, being willing to be out there with, like, in the room when I go to bed, stuff like that. Midna, on the other hand, has actually been able to be held, gone into, and interacted with comfortably without her constantly running away and being fearful and always shivering or shaking. Now, we have also this weekend played with some opportunities when Zenko, Akko, and Haimayer were hanging out again with us to try to socialize them some more. I think they got to a point where they're kind of at a max with socialization, because Tetra is much better about just getting swaddled and hanging out and being good. Midna started to show some signs of I'm done and may run off violently again. And so I read that in her and picked her up and put her back in her room away from people, and she's back to being fine there. But I just felt like there was too much that she was out and about, so trying to take ownership of this. Tetra, on the other hand, Hyde was hanging out with. They have kind of a bond, but I think it might have just been too long at this point in the same thing. She allowed her to get up because she was kind of going to wander towards me. I was on another couch. and instead, though, took off, kind of like jumped on the floor and walked behind the couch. She didn't really run, but after she got away from us, she did not come out. She would come near and want to watch and see, but was making sure she couldn't be grabbed. Eventually coaxed her into one of the beds that's downstairs, and she laid in there, which is somewhat of a defeated thing, where it's like, I'm in here, I don't have anywhere else to go. At which point I reached in, grabbed her, picked her up, pet her for a little bit, but then took her back to her room as well. Basically, I think they reached their maximum for socialization for that day. So working with it still, trying to figure it out. I also want to do a big shout out on the cats to some of my friends, because I'd taken them into the vet last Friday, which was its own nightmare, or Friday before. It was its own nightmare, but in doing so, got them their initial shots, check out and stuff. They're all great. They have no ringworm, no like any heartworm or anything, any kind of things they could tell with any of the blood work and tests, and they got their leukemia shots, stuff like that. And I spent a good amount on it. I had scheduled or talked about getting them set up to go in and get spayed, as well as other booster shots and stuff, but looking at the price of the traditional vet is prohibitive. The price shade out for everything I wanted to get done was like $460 per cat, and so that ain't happening. But I've had friends who talked to me about some other options, and through that have found the potential that through the Dumb Friends League and some others with cats, at least, not dogs, they provide some either very inexpensive or free services to get them spayed. And so I'll probably end up going that route. I just have to find their mobile lab where it's going to be so I can take them in and do that. But anyhow, I have hope. We'll see. The cats have been a continuing challenge, but not necessarily the worst thing I could be dealing with. So, update on the cats. All right. Beyond that, just getting into my week, and then we have some topics we will definitely get to. I was going to comment that I've picked up some movies because Amazon.com Prime sales especially, and a series of already existing anime series and stuff that are out there with this specific tag on the side called SAVE, which stands for Super Amazing Value Edition for an anime. Now, I first was introduced to these through Zenko Akko, because Akko, you guys have a good share of these on your shelf, correct?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of titles that we particularly enjoy, and so we are always looking for really good deals on them, because there is a limit to how much we want to spend.
Well, and we were even talking to the price per episode kind of deal with anime, because one of the challenges is certain companies, and who were we looking at? It wasn't Funimation.
Aniplex,
yes.
They're the worst.
They think very highly of the value of your per episode per minute kind of viewership of whatever they put out there, where it was getting to the range of per episode of $2 to $3 an episode or more.
Oh, much more. No. Aniplex is some of the worst and most expensive shows. They have a lot of good quality content, but theirs end up ranging $10 plus per episode.
Oi!
Where we're willing to do, for ones that we really, really love, maybe $5 an episode at the max.
Okay. For classic, amazing, I need to own this anime.
Yes.
And that's an interesting point, because Air Gear, one of my favorites from just random, I picked it up, started watching it because it's about inline skating, but with magical inline skating kids that can fly through the air and do all these wonderful things, ride up buildings and stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. I've loved this series when I caught it originally. And this one is 4 discs, 650 minutes worth of content, complete series of 25 episodes. And I got it on Amazon for $15 shipped.
Yeah, that's good.
And granted, it was normally $20, but on sale for $5 off or something, because we're reaching towards Black Friday.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of great deals out there. And so I picked this one up, and this is a true pleasure. And then what is almost a guilty pleasure, but I have to freely admit is my favorite kind of anime, or one of, Cat Planet Cuties. The other one is one that I've actually had been watching other means, and I saw it for sale and I said, well, shoot, I'll buy it. I think it was $20 for the full series.
For those not aware, no, it is not a hentai. Someone just didn't. It's not an 18+ one. It's they just didn't realize what they were naming it.
Well, but in a way, it is accurate, because it is one that the reason I say I like it, it's on the same level of me enjoying Dog Days a lot. Is it's adorable, it's cute, and admission time, Wayne likes cute anime, not cute relationship. Well, that's not entirely true as well, because we were talking I love Hina and stuff like this. But cute in the sense that the characters are basically adorable, the way they act and interact with each other. In both of these ones, they have very well-drawn, cute girls, and just the male characters are somewhat oblivious, but are genuinely good. and want to be good. And almost a harem anime. I mean, Cat Planet Cuties essentially is a harem anime. Dog
Fair.
Days is a little less so, just because the characters are so cutesy in general, but it's still a harem anime. But Cat Planet Cuties is like really adorable cat girls, and admittedly, there are scenes, so just heads up, where there's like full topless nudity at points, but it's not like focused on in the dirty way. It just kind of like happens. It's weird how they do it.
There's a whole thing I can do about character development and how different kinds of fan service are actually really important for certain characters because they tell you things about them. Mm-hmm. As long as it's not in the overdone way, ooh, look what we have here, that a lot of...
Yeah. Wait,
you'll find a lot in our Western programming a lot.
Oh gosh, all our stuff. No, and so I'm a big fan of both, but I picked them up both. Say, there's several other titles that are on there. None that I was like, I have to own this or don't already. But that was one that those I felt inspired, and so picked those up. And plus, I figured Zenko Aka would both be proud of me for giving in.
Very much so.
And doing that. Because I don't know how many save titles you have, but I think on the shelf I saw at least a good half dozen or more.
Oh, just
of the
save?
Green just the
Probably
green binding on the side.
about 8 to 12.
Okay, yeah. So, of just ones they got on specific deals, which is really good. And yes, Hando, boobs. Whereas, like, Dog Days also shows, to a level degree, boobs and stuff, because one of the things that characters will run into is any under main characters. Weird how they do it. Any character that's not a main character, when they get popped for damage, becomes like a little plush chibi-esque thing, like just a head with ears on it kind of thing, of a cute plushy version of themselves, before they get medically reinstated back to their human-esque form. Where the main characters, their armor and weapons get broken, and so they end up naked half the time, depending on how much damage they take. A lot of times it's just down to like swimsuit level underwear kind of thing. But sometimes if it's a massive attack, they'll go all the way down to full nude and they have to like block everything, like, oh no! And just funny things like that. But I do love anime like that. It makes me smile in a very genuine way, I think is why. But anyhow, so I had to pick those up. Was happy about that, and I will look for others. And Black Friday coming up is going to be a big deal for me. Because I have noted through way back when, if everybody remembers the electrical impact I had from getting hit by lightning, and how things have been ticking off the list that have broken. Well, electricity does interesting things, and one of the things it does is it sometimes breaks things in slow manner. And so most recently, to add to my overall like failed list, the electrical outlets in my eaves around the house are not working. Where I normally have my permanent lights that I have plugged in, those aren't working. I actually took an outlet tester out, plugged it in, turned them on, and got nothing. So I need to call an electrician to actually get those done. But that's something I will put on the insurance claim, because I'm now getting much closer to doing the insurance claim now that I feel better about everything getting kind of like, here's what all died. Some of what also died was, I'd already said receiver and stuff like that, but my television, the HDMI ports on my television died, which made it real tough because, oh, that's right, something else that you put it on here, and we'll see if others show up in time to talk about. There. But, is I was having guests over to watch a movie, and it's hard because when all your HDMIs are broken and all new modern devices use digital inputs like HDMI to connect, it meant every one of my movie players was broken, including my actual computer behind plugged in, all going through HDMI. None of them worked. Thankfully, for my workout room upstairs, I have an old Roku box. I say old in that it actually uses AVI to connect through. So left-right audio channel and video. And I was able to plug that into the television, and it still worked through that channel, which is nice. So I was able to get everything running and still have stuff going, but it's going through the Roku instead of the television itself. In some cases, Netflix could do. But the computer behind my television is where I do most things. So add TV to the list, and that was not inexpensive. I think when I bought the thing, it cost me like $1,700. Now, granted, technology's improved, and I can get better now, but man, I like that TV, and it was able to do 3D so well. Even though 3D is like fattish, it actually was really good on that TV. So looking at that, and thankfully as Black Friday comes closer, I'm going to be looking to replace my main TV, because I use that for everything. That and the receiver. I haven't been able to play Rock Band properly without the receiver. Like, it plays... So parties have been a different kind of scope. But the other thing that broke over this last week was my cousin's computer. So initially, when we got hit, the lightning took out one of his Ethernet ports in his computer. Thankfully, his motherboard had two. And so I was able to plug into the other one. It was working basically just fine. Well, in the last week, all of a sudden he's getting a video signal error where he was playing in the middle of a game and the computer, like his two monitors started blinking and went to nothing. We then tried to reboot it all and such, and eventually check like video card things through the onboard video because Intel processor has the onboard, and that wasn't working. And to the point where the USBs weren't working and weren't even starting his mouse or keyboard. All these different things were happening at once where it's like, oh man. And so in doing so, we narrowed it down to, we went to the candy store and ended up picking up a new motherboard, processor, and RAM. So improved and upgraded him from an old 1150 board with a 4650 or something chip to, we upgraded him now to an 1151 because good luck finding 1150 boards. Which also meant he had to upgrade to a new chip, so we got him a i5 7600K, the unlockable one, which is nice. The only thing better out there is a 77, which is the i7. And what else we get him? We got him 16 gigs of RAM, because that's still plenty, and the nice enough motherboard. Got that all plugged in, and still with his old video card, which was a 780 Ti, I think, or a 780, was not booting. Would not see anything. So eventually stuck it into the motherboard video again. I tested the monitors. I brought up my laptop, plugged it in, and got the monitors to test that they were working, so it wasn't just the rest of it. Got it all put back together, and eventually the next day it turned on through the motherboard video, through the i5 video. So that was a start. Like, okay, so then we realized the video card itself had died as well. Like, awesome! Everything basically just shite itself. So went back to the candy store, and at that point, we also ran into kind of, for him, a vote of no confidence. Because once you start losing pieces, you start thinking the whole thing is unstable. It's just like with a car. Where once things start going bad, you start thinking, I don't know if I can deal with this anymore. I may just need to get rid of it completely and start over. So the last piece that he decided on, we kept the case, and his hard drives are fine. Although we actually did upgrade him to a new M.2 stick hard drive. It was still a SATA bus one versus a PCI Express fast one, but SATAs are fast. Or especially any SSD. But it's the one that you stick on the motherboard directly, so you don't have to use the SATA cable. And this thing was a tiny little chip, and it's a 0.5 terabyte. And he got it for like $140 on sale.
Wow.
Yeah. Ridiculous pricing. Anyhow, got that plugged in. First one of those I've ever installed, which is actually pretty neat to do because it kind of just clips in and pushes down, and then you screw it in so the springiness of the connector actually holds it all in with connection, which is great. And you don't have to add additional power or a cable. So I was like, worked well. Anyhow, got that all settled. Found out that my cousin thought his boot drive was like a 100 gig SSD, and then he had a regular like 500 gig Velociraptor drive, platter drive. Go to figure out as we opened it up that his C drive was actually a 500 gig SSD, and that he had never realized he'd been installing everything on his computer to his SSD. So he was constantly running out of storage, so he said, well, we'll get more storage. So now that he got that one, he's got two 500 gig SSDs and a 500 gig Velociraptor drive. So he's doing pretty good. Got that all together, and then went back and got a new video card, because needed to. Upgraded him to a 1070 Ti, which is nice, to say the least. It's basically the same power as my 1080 I have, but slightly cheaper, and it's a 70 series because the Ti they overclocked it has almost the same stats as my 1080 minus some of the like CUDA processing cores. But he also decided he couldn't trust anymore his power supply, and so he got a new power supply as well. So essentially we built him a brand new computer this last week. Don't know what we'll do with the old pieces. I think the RAM's probably okay. I think the processor's probably okay, so I might try to get him to sell them on eBay. But the motherboard was dead, and finding, unless you already have a 1050 or something motherboard chipset, why? I don't know. But we got that all reset up, got him running, installed the new, like I said, the hard drive, the new video card, and now he's going great. And currently we're running a Arc server. So there's a potential, if people are curious, that I've got a VTW Arc server running right now, and if you want details, you can probably talk to me about it, because that's the new game du jour for Hostel, Earthweaver, Serpenser, and a few others that are being playing together, and I've picked it up a little bit. It's done a lot of updates since it was originally like beta forever, and so now it's a cleaner, better game. So that's been happening. Anyway, so did that with his technology, those. I needed to list everything on my insurance claim and probably finally call the insurance company again and say, this needs to happen. I need to get this replaced, especially in time for Black Friday coming up here this month, because I need at least a new receiver and television for the house, as well as potentially all kinds of other little pieces, radio for downstairs and some other stuff. I think it might have I don't think it took out my clock radio. That might have just been old. Oh, there's so many things. Sucks. So don't get hit by lightning, kids. Ground everything in your house. Other things. So, the other thing we watched, and this is where maybe if the gals come back, we'll bring it up again. But we were getting prepped, and the reason I needed to move the Roku was for a New Year's Eve bash we're doing. That is a Great Gatsby or 20s themed event, gala, that is happening downtown that we're going to be a part of. And so we wanted some inspiration to see what the times were like, as well as the dress. Primarily, I need to figure out what kind of outfit I need to wear to celebrate the 20s. So in it, the one we did, very nice, Hando, I appreciate that. And hey, Wrath, wow, Wrath, good to see you online. It's been a while. So we watched The Great Gatsby, the 2012 or whatever version that Leonardo DiCaprio was in, and Tobey Maguire. I had never seen it. A lot of others had. But I actually really enjoyed it. It was interesting because I've also, apparently, I'm old enough, and Hando, you can correct me if I'm wrong, where I didn't have to read The Great Gatsby in like 7th grade, which apparently everyone else in the world has had to do. And so I missed that. But so I had never read the story and had no idea. So for me, it was actually really interesting to watch. And it was fun because a few other people like love The Great Gatsby. And we had additional friends that are going to be going to the event come over as well. And we all had kind of a night of it Friday, was where this weekend started. Really enjoyed it, this classic Great Gatsby. I thought the feel and look of it was phenomenal. And just the acting was interesting because it's a modernized version of the story. Because the story they tell is the historic story and kind of the times in life of, but the music they choose is not. The music was like so modern in so many cases. They still have some big band and some other stuff, but they were doing mixes of what like Jay-Z and I'm trying to think of some of the other artists in there, but that were with it, kind of showing scenes and very stylized, which was fun and told a good story. So I'm looking forward heavily to this event, but I have no idea what I'm wearing. No idea. I made a very bad joke where I was telling Zenko, and we were laughing heavily about it. I was like, I guess I could just be the help because, you know, all the black folk in this movie, for the most part, not all, but a good majority of them, are in the background, you know, serving. But they're wearing tuxes, so that'd be fun. It was bad. It was bad. I was being awful. And thank you, Hando, for that. You're the size of a turkey, not a lion. Velociraptor. Yes. Double clicks. We love you. Yeah. Sorry. It was an awful joke. Beyond that, and this is something that I introduced Akko and Zenko to last night, although it was late. I say this last night, this morning is late. But I introduced them to one of my favorite blaxploitation movies out there, Black Dynamite. What were your thoughts on that, Akko? Because I've seen it.
So there's a very interesting movie, it's so terrible it's good sort of way, but what was really clever about it is they knew exactly. I mean, that's exactly what they were doing. That's the whole purpose of it. So they were making it purposefully terrible so it was good. So there's a lot of really interesting things that they did with it, including with, Zenko and I were talking about this, how they made a very conscious effort to make it seem like it was set in the time
as though it was not just set, but filmed.
Exactly.
In the 70s. That was the whole point of what they did with Black Dynamite, for people who haven't seen it.
Everything from the way they'd cut it, the cinematography, the lighting, all kinds of things that you realize, because this is obviously not that era anymore, but they had to consciously remember to include all of those elements to make it fit.
Yeah, the bad 70s action fighting kung fu flick movies rolled into one thing. This was Starsky and Hutch meets kung fu theater meets you name it, from the old 70s style movies. And I think some of my favorite ones that we noted, because they have even the bad acting, where something would happen and they would have a pregnant pause kind of thing, where you'd almost like they forgot a line, and then someone kick in, or people overacting scenes and such, where the one character that's all the time jumping up going, "Hey, you jive turkeys, you just don't understand what's going on!" And just yelling every line and stuff like that. And
the random microphone boon
that was one of my
distracts.
favorites. So the filming aspect of it, because a lot of it was the cuts. Like a cut would be a harsh cut, or it'd go a little longer in a scene and then cut, or effects cuts where they were doing a thing and the person, my favorite was as a kid, Black Dynamite throwing 3 kids through a window. First kid goes to the window. It's fun because the cut happens right as the kid is already going through it, and the glass shatters and goes, and then the next one, like, it cuts as the next kid is already coming out the window, and then it cuts and the next kid is coming out the window. So you never see the kid actually falling through the open broken glass kind of part of the window, just the way they cut it. God, so many like the little things that failed. So the boom mic one is at one point Black Dynamite's behind a desk and gets very emphatic about whatever's happening, jumps up, and the camera like reactively looks up to follow him, like not scripted kind of thing, and in doing so goes so high that you see a boom mic in frame. And you know it's intentional because they go a step further where the boom mic's in frame and he's talking some lines, being real serious about what he's doing. And then as he moves slightly, his hair, his fro, bumps the mic and like moves it a little bit. And it just,
and then he looks at it.
Yeah, he kind of like, oh, hey. It's so bad and good at the same time. So it's something I do recommend. Now, the movie starts stronger than it ends. By the end, it turns into like a cheesy Rambo flick in some ways. But it's entertaining. So I introduced Zenko Ako to that as we were just trying to stay up late after doing a few other things. Because we binged a little more, and we'll get into it here in a bit, Stranger Things. In fact, we binged some more this morning, or started to this morning, and hopefully we'll finish it this afternoon. We shall see.
We're only 2 from the end now.
We're so close. It is so close. I need this to happen. But we're since everyone else I think has binged the entire series, it's like yes. Actually, so Hando, as you're talking about it, with Great Gatsby. So let's see. Oh, okay, good. You said I read Harrison Bergen, Animal Farm, Great Expectations. Those are classic. I never read any of those actually. I am aware of and know a lot about them, but never read them. Mine were things like, oh gosh, what was the one where the kids are on the island and have to survive alone? Where they all get stranded. Of the children.
What is that one?
Shoot! Hendo, save me! Save me, Hendo! It's oh my gosh, it's a classic. Ladies, kids get stuck on an island after an airplane or in the real book or whatever boat crash and become a society of themselves.
Lord of the Flies?
Thank you, Lord of the Flies.
I was talking about that actually.
Nice. We're talking about reading that came up because I was talking about The Great Gatsby.
We know.
Oh, you were listening?
Yeah.
And how that was not part of my reading. And so Hando brought up what he was reading. Thank you, Hando, also. And Wrath both got Lord of the Flies. Thank you. And then Hando was talking about Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar, and books like that I did not. Because I did those. I did Cider House Rules, I think. No, that wasn't one I read. God, that was a movie. It wasn't one I read. There was one that was great. Kind of like, it reminds me always of Dead Poets Society, but wasn't. It was about 2 kids growing up in a like boys' school kind of thing back in the day. And, so good. But those are kind of the reading I did, and stuff I hated, like Oedipus and Metamorphosis. They've all heard me rant.
Yeah.
Rant
So
about that reading. Sorry, back to task.
I was gonna say no. I've been familiar with a lot of those books, but for a different reason, and I don't remember them now quite as well as I used to. I was still a nerd when I was young, so much so that in school I did something that was called Battle of the Books.
Oh,
and so they had this entire list of books, all these classics, award-winning ones that you had to read through, and then you would go with your team and you would compete. And so they would do it in like a quiz style. They would ask questions. Okay. Oh, in what book, did X, Y, or Z happen? Or
Gotcha.
They'd bring up some themes, and then you'd have to answer it.
Okay.
And my team was second because the rest of the team was not as.
Did someone carry?
Yeah, it didn't work through the final round, unfortunately. But I used to do a ton of reading.
See, my challenge is I love to read. I read a crap ton. I don't read for comprehension. I read for entertainment, which made school life for me difficult. Because in most cases, I would read the chapters I had to begrudgingly, because most of the stories were content I didn't like to read. And so I'd just be like, oh, I have an assignment, I guess I have to read this. And I suffered through English Lit whenever it was stuff about what was the author thinking about. I don't know, he's dead. I can tell you what I think of the story, but the author, I got nothing. I hated that.
Those did drive me up a wall, because then it's like, what when you start getting into the more, advanced analysis, what did it mean when he said he had blue curtains? I don't know, curtains were blue?
Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, like, that happened?
No, it's the Depression and the state of the world. And
so, admittedly, I say this. As an adult, I've gotten better about appreciating where artists, where authors, where playwrights were in life, the time and what they existed in, that they wrote the things. It makes more sense tonight. And just a heads up, the blue is actually a coaster. The disc.
Well,
But I just say it because you're like right next to it. It doesn't look like one.
it's hard ingrained into me not to put things on floppy disks.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I saw that. I was like, oh yeah, that's there for video. But so I was always very literally about reading books. But actually, what's helped me is in going through musicals and stuff like listening to you guys talk about Les Mis on our drive. It helped to then understand the framework it was written in and what was going on. That was meaningful to me. But back in school, high school especially, yeah.
Les Mis is a long book.
And because you read it, makes it
Yes.
even better for the play.
One thing Zenko does, though, and she's enjoyed it a lot because she doesn't like to I mean, sometimes it's really hard to just sit down and power through a book. So when she works on projects, she'll do it as an audiobook. So they'll have some really interesting people read it. And so she can power through a lot of books she wanted to.
I do love audiobooks, and that's how I got through Game of Thrones. It's how I got through initially, or that's how I did Red Shirts and a couple others I've loved. Just and it depends who's reading them, how well they act. That's how I started Harry Potter. Was initially audiobooks with my family traveling between through Nebraska for holidays and such. I was like, it was just playing, and I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this, and it was well read. Also, Wrath goes in there and said he split off to sci-fi after doing Necromancer, Stranger in a Strange Land, Solaris, Space Odyssey, and Foundation, which is interesting because some of the other books I just read for fun is because there were a few weird ones I enjoyed, but it wasn't in school because of the assignment. There were a few I picked up and just read the crap out of. It's why, and I want to say Cider House Rules, but I keep thinking no, that's the Tobey Maguire movie, right? But there was one that was again reminding me of the scenes of Dead Poets Society, like that time frame. But I remember kids specifically hanging out in some tree in the kind of the land that was a all boys school kind of thing. And whatever reason, I loved that book. Don't remember the name, but it was like 7th grade or 8th grade. I read it. It was one I picked up, started reading. And I just got engaged, and so I finished the book in like 2 or 3 days. And we were supposed to read it over like a month, and so I was just stuck going like, I don't want to read it again. I enjoyed it. I don't have to go and learn it now. And so I kept fighting with like having to just remember for the next month everything that happened. But it's also why I have trouble when I don't read for comprehension about like names and even like anime and stuff like that. You guys have seen, you'll mention names of anime or characters. I'm just like, who?
That is a current hobby.
And you'll talk plot, scene, events that occur, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I totally saw that movie. You know, I saw that anime, I saw that movie. Yeah. You give me like character names like, no idea. I'm so bad that way because I just read for like what's happening and the feel of it. I love it. And so that's always been a challenge of mine. Okay, I totally have gone off whatever rail I was going talking about literature.
Books is fine.
Yeah, but I love it. Love books. Well, it's even like this.
Do a whole book list now.
You know, Air Gear, I couldn't tell you a single character's name in this. But I can tell you generally what happens and that the main character runs around and is in love with the idea of the popular big cool girl that flies around where he sits down by the river on the thing and she comes flying over him and it's like an angel flying through the sky in his vision of her. And eventually comes to find out she's kind of average and normal compared to others, still glamorous, but it's kind of for show, where it then falls into another character who is a gal that's actually more real, and there's kind of a love thing back and forth between them, but ends up building his own gang out of somewhat people he beats and some of the leaders of other gangs and groups to eventually take over the city as the top Air Gear group out there, from coming up from nothing where he's using second or third hand gear that he has to maintain himself. I love this thing, and yet I don't know a single character's name. That's Wayne. Anyhow. So Pidge.
Okay, that does need a cameo right now.
Just come in near and look at camera. So Zenko and Hideaway are about to do some work, and I think that's that is glasses that came out of one of Hyde's boxes for various cosplay that Zenko has put on with her Pidge jacket from Voltron as part of our crew, and it looks surprisingly good as Pidge. So good on. Thank you. So good. Other things. And welcome, Tromad. Good to have you on. And, oh, by the way, Hando, heads up right now. I am planning to come out in March to Anime Boston. Just so you know. I have been promised that I'm going to do Alphonse Elric there, and I have yet to start that armor. Stress. Anyhow. So continuing on our discussions. Oh yeah, I was gonna try to multitask. This is a failure. So at some point after this show, I'm going to be going to the Broncos game tonight, and I have to figure out what time that was gonna happen. Yeah. So I'll figure that out here in a minute. Must be on the bus at least 2 hours before the game. Game starts at like 8. Or no, that's different. Shoot. All right. I'll figure that out. Game starts at 6:30. So 4:30, so 4. Okay, I'm good. This'll work. I'll go freeze my butt off at a Broncos game and not supporting either team there. Because my Chargers fail me. Anyhow. So, what other things was I talking about before I get to the actual gaming that's happening? Oh yeah, notes. I have those. So, watched Great Gatsby, enjoyed the heck out of that. Scenes, thoughts, and ideas. Did the Blaxploitation thing. We've been watching Stranger Things. We have 2 episodes left in season 2. We will hold off on chatting about that for now because the gals may want to interject.
Probably.
We'll see what they say. They are in the middle of doing chemical alchemy on themselves. And so we'll see how that comes out as well. So they're doing that. Continuing, let's see. I think that's all the non-geek related straight geek I had for the week. We have some articles and stuff we'll talk about as well, but I do have some geek to get into. Although this is good because we're getting, 45 minutes in. So we will officially switch this one over and say...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
To talk about some geek cred this week. So partially, and this goes back a little bit into just functional deviations, I've been productive-ish. On Friday, I had an opportunity to go to work to do some overtime, because that would be nice. Get some extra money for holidays and pay off some bills. But instead, I just stuck myself at home and did a lot of other things. But I was productive, so I feel mostly good about it. I did a lot of photo editing, and I'll get into that. And Wrath, we haven't seen true snow yet, but there's snow in the mountains. Like, the mountains are starting to get the more and more and more snow up there. You can go visit snow now if you'd like to, kind of thing. And awesome, Hannah, that you finished Stranger Things, so you're ahead of me. Right now, though, it's 50 degrees today? It's been in the mid-50s here for fall-winter time frame. Anyhow, me being productive consisted of doing a lot of photo edits for the photo shoot that I did last week with Hyde. Yes. I have about a third of the photos overall edited, kind of in a base level, almost half. The challenge is, this is one of the first times I'm actually trying to do in-depth layered photoshopping of a photo to make it look like photos that were artwork that we had found and kind of mixed together. So this was a shoot for Nier Automata, where for Hyde's version of 2B, main character in it, and we had found some artwork. I think I have 7 examples of something that were various ones found on like DeviantArt and other places that were just examples of 2B running around doing cool stuff. And so I actively set up my studio in the basement to try to capture those looks. I want to say I did pretty good with the base shots. There's some minor angles or something with that I did, but I did like surprisingly good with lighting and such, and got those together. So I have great base stock to do some manipulation off. Took a bunch of other photos and ones just poses things I think were really well done. And I think Hyde had taken a shot from like behind the scenes that she posted on her Hide My Air page. You can actually see like multiple of my lights backed up, the backdrop, her like leaning on a stool to get her in a position where she couldn't squat like that really for a length of time, with a fan blowing to move like her wigs. It was so bad. Like all the behind the scenes of trying to actually make a scene happen, because this is not how Wayne shoots photography. I walk around cons like, oh, look at you, click, and that's the limit of it. In studio shoots or out in like circle ground shoots, I might tell a person to lean forward, move their shoulder a certain way, stuff like that. But rarely am I trying to focus on lighting other than, wait a second, turn this way and I'll rotate around. That's where I want the light and shoot it. You know, hey, it's golden hour. Everyone look this way. Shoot, 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 shoot. That's like the limit of Wayne's ability to make something happen. This time I'm doing more and it's interesting. So we'll see how they come out. Hopefully you guys like them. I'll probably put 1 or 2 in the art contest. Please jump in and join on that. I've been bad. I've been doing so many other things. I haven't actually picked my photos for it. I need to put 6 in there. I need you guys to participate as well. Anyhow, did that. Also started doing some 3D printing. Akko's always fun to talk with because also is in the 3D printing thing, and I'll let you pimp out Guildhall here in a minute for Geek Cred stuff. But the things I did is I had finally moved my office back up and my computer in here. And in doing so, I started saying, well, I want to mount things and get them running. So some of the things I did is I got online. I now have the studio lights that you guys helped purchase mounted to my ceiling in the office. So hopefully we are consistently well lit in here now and look beautiful, although you see a little shine. I might have to start like wearing powder or foundation or something on the show. I don't know. Be ready for lights. Got those mounted. It took some work. I had to do some like drywall installation of mounts, put the lights just right, run wires. But I think they came out pretty nice. It works. Also did a lot of 3D printing. And for once I did a lot of 3D printing like on the fly. Because I got my Oculus set back up, but in this office it's not like any good place to put the stands where they're optimally set up so that I can have them see me from all angles. So for the 3 cameras. So I found some models online and had to adjust them and modify them to fit mine, but I found some monitor ones, which works great since I have 3 monitors. So I now have a mount of my Oculus sensors up on either of my side monitors. I also, and you can't see it on the video feed, but up in the back corner, up in my office, I printed a corner mount that I was able to nail in for the 3rd one and ran the wires around that. So I did 3D prints for all of those in the same day. I also, and can't be seen, but on my wall, printed stands, basically hangers for various things. So I have a hanger for the Oculus itself. It holds by the nose bridge of it. The next to that, I have a mount for the Oculus Touch controllers, and next to that, the original little Oculus like 1-button controller, as well as the Xbox 3 or Xbox One controller that I have. And so they're all happily like just sitting here in places that are within hand's reach now, and no longer like on my desk lingering amongst places or on the floor where I'm trying not to step on things. So I did like 3D printing for good purpose. It felt so good. And then I printed new shower hooks for my bathroom. I had like the regular plastic ones you buy from the store, and I'd hung too much on one and it just snap. I was like, dang it! So I found some models online. I could have designed one of those myself, but they were already there. Some really robust ones, and printed a couple models of that. So I'd have 2 new shower hooks on my thing. It's surprisingly, and you can tell me if you've had any Aqua you've been able to produce yet, but producing not just gaming or toy, but useful 3D prints is surprisingly like feels good. Like I did something. Mm-hmm. Have you had any prints yet you've done that are more utility than just for fun?
Not pure utility. Not quite there yet, but we've done a little bit blended. Like we gave a couple light switch plates.
Oh, okay.
For gifts.
I remember the kind of big switch one that I play with, because you did that as a gift, right?
Yes. So
Nice.
Those are pretty useful, but also really fun. It's just kind of the neat thing about it is there's so much you can do with it that when something finally strikes you, it's just, oh yeah, I can print that.
Which is beautiful. And through services like, of course, Thingiverse is a big one, but better than that is the aggregate Yeggi, YEGGI.com, suggested for everyone. Being able to kind of say, well, I need something for this, and then just to do a query, just go search and see what's already built. Because I've actually gotten better at building my own things. The big one was this gift of Connect 4 discs, so the things that you play the game Connect 4 with, and customizing with logos from sports teams for a friend of mine who was like, I totally want these ones. And doing that, I actually felt really good that I got it to work and made these things custom, and they print out great and they work as the game. I was like, I did that. Well, that's cool. And so more of that I want to participate in, do things. Yeah, just random little useful things. It's kind of fun to be able to fabricate and do. I printed a dice tower for D&D.
Oh.
My Grayskull style, Castle Grayskull style green dice tower now. Awesome. Can't wait to use it for the next time we play. It'll be fun. So things like that. And it's funny because I always look at my shelf and I see mostly toys and little model things, some cosplay stuff. But I like doing useful things.
Useful is really awesome because it's, just again, things that you need that.
And not having to search or find it on Amazon the exact thing. One of the best things is being able to measure and size a model or build a model to the specifications.
Built to suit.
That is so nice.
That's one of the things that I like doing for some of my other models and toys because I play wargaming. The cool thing is being able to do something that doesn't actually exist.
Yes, taking something that doesn't currently exist in form and creating it and making it fit what you need. And that sounds awesome.
I love it because what I did for that one is I modified, it was a World War II British Covenanter tank turret. and that just doesn't exist for the model range because I play Warhammer
Yep.
40k.
They have more futuristic styles and things like that.
But I decided I didn't really like lots of the kinds of turrets that I saw, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make some ones on my own. And the cool thing is, you can, 20 millimeter, hole. Well, I can make this thing 20 millimeters and make sure everything's
Yes.
sized perfectly and make sure it's all scaled right. And it's really neat because now, for my things, because I'm not a very good sculptor, I'm kind of don't have a very high dexterity score.
My
let's say.
hands-on abilities are okay, but not my strongest suit. But my precision and detail in digital form can be great. I can do a lot with digital. At least me. It's why I actually got asked at work. We had an event where we're doing a meeting thing, kind of understand your coworkers better. And in it, one of the things it asked was like, what was your favorite subject in school? And initially, I was going to say like chemistry or something, because I enjoyed them, even though I didn't do anything with them. And then I went back and realized my favorite subject in school ever was mechanical drafting and architecture. I got to measure things on drafting tables. The cool angle I'm on a drafting table with compasses, actual compasses, and with protractors and all the various angle tools and things like that, and curve tools, to create very detailed, well thought out, measured art. But it was all mechanical, so it was drafting. It was artistic in the sense that I made it. But I used rulers and straight edges to do it in a precise way, that I could build this thing. I loved that. I realized how much I loved that. I was almost artistic, but in a engineering way. God, I loved it. It was hands-on. I still have, from middle school, some of my drafts and stuff down on my shelves in the basement.
That's neat.
Oh, I love that.
'Cause I like the digital myself, mainly because, like I said, I don't have great dexterity, but I do have a lot of patience. So if I can get something to be done perfectly as a model, eventually, however many weeks it takes,
Right?
eventually I'll be happy with it, and then I can replicate it, and I love that. So it's not like, you want to say making pottery or direct sculpting, because there is no way, if I make it nice, it's not going to happen again. Guaranteed.
It's like when I say something brilliant. It happens once. If you didn't record it or write down notes, that's your fault. I'll never say those words again. Not with the eloquence, at least. And so, yeah. Let's see. I am going to choose music for the break here and make sure I throw that in here real quick. That goes... Oh, it's not going to let me do that. Bad. Okay, that's fine. So, what was I saying with that piece? So 3D printing is great for that because it allows you not only take kind of the skills of drafting and creation and stuff like that, but then you get to produce something, right? You get to go to a printer and have it print out whatever model it was you were envisioning, and then you get to try it and see, did it work? Is this what I was after? And if it does, you're like, sweet, I did the thing, right? And it worked out well. I love that so much. I'm now looking at, eventually when I do new television, I'm already saying, I could put a shelf up that I 3D print for the Kinect. For when I do a Kinect, it could be custom. Even though Microsoft has given up the Kinect and will not make any more things for it, I like my Kinect, damn it. Talking to my device and say, computer. It's so, damn it. Anyhow. So yeah, 3D printing has been a big deal just recently for these things. I love that I've done all this stuff around the office and have ideas for other things to do. I have to finish some of these toys and stuff, but then I have some, I may try to do nothing but 3D prints for presents this year for nephews and nieces.
That's what I'm going to do.
That may actually be a thing. I need to, mind you, figure out what I'm going to print them all pretty quick and what they're into, but I really want to just 3D print them stuff.
Oh, it's great
So-
because, a lot of it is the time investment, and the initial investment to get the machine. But the actual materials cost is pretty insignificant.
It's minute. It is so little compared to the rest of what you're doing.
It's just mostly now a function of how much your machine cost and how much time,
Yeah.
basically the wear on the parts. The parts aren't terribly expensive.
Which, admittedly, I have a Robo 3D R2. You have an R1 similar to my R1, although newer version.
Mine's an R1 Plus, I think. It's the
It might be the Plus?
second gen.
Because you had the one that they fixed all the crap that my Kickstarter didn't have.
It's a second or third gen, I think.
Yeah, so much nicer. And actually prints beautifully.
I also have a New Matter Mod T. That thing I love.
Did you get the new one?
No, not the new
okay,
one.
Okay, I was going to say.
I have the older Mod T, but it's
Yeah, because the Mod T
really
was
easy.
surprisingly good for such a simple device. And I remember seeing it at CES when it first came out, them trying to simplify the whole process of 3D printing. And it did. Because you have to use almost everything on the web and stuff. You don't do as much direct porting into it.
Yeah, less temperature controls, doesn't have a heated build plate.
Yeah, you're not going to do ABS on it by any means. PETG, any of those. You're going to do
only PLA.
And that's okay. PLA is mostly what people print. And it doesn't have a huge build plate, but it's enough to get started. And once you kind of hone it in, it's really good.
It is.
Quality's great.
Quality's pretty solid. You just have to watch out, of course, because it doesn't have a heated build plate, obviously.
Yeah, most cheap ones don't, although they're getting better these days.
It's an amazing one for a beginner. Oh, also, it's Wi-Fi enabled. So
yeah,
that's
so
kind
it's
of
funny, right?
special.
My R2's are Wi-Fi enabled. The R1 wasn't. I still have a USB that I have
My
to
R1's
plug
still
in,
not.
Right, but Wi-Fi is so nice. You can now put your device anywhere and just have a plug and start printing, so it doesn't have to be physically connected to the computer. The best part is if your computer crashes, dies, goes into sleep mode or something like that, your print doesn't die.
Yeah.
It keeps printing on its own memory. So good.
I've had a few of those.
Oh, when you first realize that's a thing, you're like, well, poop. Yeah, I wasted so many 3D prints learning when I first did. Anyhow. And yes, Hando, the original 3D printer is DNA. Which there are people who can actually print in, biological pieces. I've seen
yes,
videos of
the
cartilage,
biotech
ears,
That
things like
one's
that.
fascinating.
Oh, there's so much you can do. When we okay, right? So we had a huge discussion. You'd heard it before, where we didn't talk on air about it, but when we watched Westworld,
Yep.
the kind of space where 3D printing could go,
Yeah.
when you have all the different materials in a way to put them together in the right order of things.
They're already starting with biotech printing. I mean, they're getting there, which is, I love to see that kind of the development of technology, because they've got that, and now they're also starting to print in all kinds of other materials.
Oh yes, they are. Well, and I just recently saw some new metal ones, where its price continues to drop. I think these ones were like 10 grand for actual metal prints.
Those
Now,
are nice.
These were interesting because they're metal prints where they basically print in a combination plastic metal construct that you then have to. It reduces in size about 20%, but you then have to bake it and
to
kill them
melt the
essentially
plastic.
to get rid of the plastic piece, the substrate of it, and leave the metal. But it seems to work really well.
Because the metal ones are nice. One thing that I have a personal fondness for, at the easy price of $20,000 to $50,000, of
Right,
course,
easy.
is the large scale 3D printers. So ones that are about the size of this room, that you can print furniture, large pieces of equipment, all
Full
kinds.
suits of armor.
You really could, and it's very, very nice.
Now the challenge is you're getting prohibitive. Some of the cost things are just ridiculous. But the things that can be done with 3D printing. I still want a 3-dimensional, really 4D, I think is officially the biggest they go, CNC machine. So the kind of thing that removes material in a precise format, as well as a creation machine to do both. And so the combination of the two, I want it so bad. It'd be so amazing. Hey, Kuro, good to see you join us. Sorry I didn't make it out yesterday. We were entertaining and doing things, and eventually I gave up and realized it wasn't going to happen. But in doing so, we watched more Stranger Things. Yay. Anyhow, so 3D printing, like I said, has been going good and I have enjoyed that. I want to take a break. I was so close to doing that. That's what I was doing. I was so going to pick a song and got distracted again. Where?
Technology's fun
Oh, you piece of junk.
and frustrating.
Well, so the challenge, one of the challenges, is which drives things exist on. And where some of my drives are virtual, like for the show, where some are specific, like actual physical drives. And so with that, I was looking like, I can't get to this network drive through here to add this thing. Dang it. So the question, of course, is whether Kuro is just late to the chat or late to the show. Why did you do that? Okay. That's not gonna work. Well, poop. Never mind. I will just find a title for a song for the break and not do it through the just picking a song. I will just go down and find this song here. That'll work, and throw that in there so we can take a break and then come back. But after the break, we'll continue to talk a little bit of geek cred in here. I want to talk a little bit about a con that might have or might not. I don't know what to say about the con that happened. A little bit of gaming, and then some news and articles, some stuff that's happened recently, and to talk about some theories and thoughts on what might be affecting your multiplayer gaming here. Akko and I have a specific subject we're going to bring up and share some thoughts. So with that, you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com. Again, Ken is not with us. And hey, pause. Welcome to the show. We're going to take a quick 5-ish minute break to listen to some remix from OC Remix. This one specifically being from Mick Vaffy, The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and a mix of that. So we will be back right after this, and we will see you shortly.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. Capcom.
So thank you for that pause. I appreciate you listening to me and doing as said and tweeting out the show. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry, I got impatient. I wanted to come back, so I killed the music early. As I was just telling Zenko and Hyde, like, because Show X, the most narcissistic show on the interwebs, where you can listen to me talk about me for 2 hours. And Ken when he's here. Anyhow, to continue on what we're talking in general, the other things I want to bring in is, went yesterday for a moment to a local convention they were trying to do in Colorado, where there's the first iteration of what is called DakuCon, which is so hard to say. I swear, both Hyde and I were like, DekuCon? No, it's not Desu. That's NDK. The hell's a Daku? What's Daku mean? Or does it? Or
I have no idea.
well, that's good to hear from my Japanese experts in the room. No idea what a Daku is, but
I thought it was
DekuCon-
DekuCon.
I seriously. Wait, where's the?
I could have sworn it was DekuCon, and maybe they
Well, okay.
someone made them change it.
I swore a few things when getting ready to go to this thing. I swore that it was DakuCon. I swore it was Desu, something like that. I swore it was in the Springs, not just down the road from me. I swore a lot of things. The challenge, okay. I can't critique much because I didn't really go to the con. I showed up to kind of just say hi to people and then leave. I wasn't even trying to ghost it. It was actually to drop things off for individuals. But in going, one, it was at one of my least favorite hotels. It's convenient as hell to me. It's 5 minutes from here. It's free parking. It's actually better than so many venues for that. But the layout of the hotel is terrible for cons. It has an upstairs and downstairs. The upstairs you can't really fit a whole lot, and the downstairs is like its own little just thing, and it's so small that you see the whole thing from one side to the other. There's nowhere to wander. There's nowhere to do things. So people hang out upstairs anyways. This one is interesting, especially because they booked it out in multiple levels where the upstairs had some kind of dirt bike thing going on, which was like a family-friendly everyone convention thing or some just meeting. Downstairs was DakuCon, which was an 18-plus convention. And it is described, God, it's not even on this little invite really thing. It was described as, welcome to the home of Denver's premier 18-plus geek convention. Yeah, that's the whole description. That's what it is. Everything else is pre-reg. Akko and I looked up the programming. We looked at the site to try to see if we were interested in checking this out. And I hope people had fun because it's nice to have diversity in conventions. But I found no draw. And this is not a slight against anyone in particular because I have no idea who put this on. I don't know who owns this con and what they were trying to do, if it's charitable or if it's profitable. I have no idea.
People should stop trying to do them as non-profits. God, that's another...
So
never
Akko's
mind.
background is about taxation and how people do things incorrectly from a business perspective. So
That
if you
bothers
are
me.
someone who has a business and you need some information about taxation and how to keep yourself from being sued by the government for all of your money, check out Akko's work. And I'll let you if you want pimp yourself there or not. But yeah, we have some fun discussions in adult levels about taxing. But DakuCon was, it was pushed in all year about being this big 18-plus convention. I don't know about you, Akko, but for me, when I think 18-plus, because a lot of cons I go to will have an 18-plus section, usually after 9 o'clock at night, 10 or so in the evening, and they do sometimes card at the door, depending on what the event is. I went to one recently where a friend of mine, Gage, was like pulled in with Waru and a few other local kind of celebrity types to do strip bingo, which I think initially was supposed to just be down to undergarment type things, and it went further. But they checked the ID at the door for everyone. Everyone was 18 plus, and they went down to basically full nudity at parts. That's taking advantage of 18 plus in a way, as well as the subject matter being able to openly curse, talk about whatever you want, things like that, without having to worry you're going to offend someone's sensibilities for kids.
So the idea of it is actually really interesting, especially because we have Denver Comic Con here. Past Denver Comic Con ended up being very focused on kids. So it's a
Effing kids.
very family-friendly event, and by that they
Boo.
mean not very friendly to cosplayers or other non-family type
to
things.
actual comic book nerds who've
Yes.
grown up with it for years and are mostly adults.
So it's mostly a family show. So to see at least the idea of a con that takes a bit of a different direction, a little more caters to
Actual adults who make all the money and do all the things.
and not to mean that, just because it's 18 plus suddenly there's, nudity and debauchery everywhere. No, but to at least
But-
be able to handle more adult themes than
True.
the
As
average
much as
5-year-old.
we like nudity and debauchery, and we're okay with that. But you can have a side wing for that.
Right.
Right? It doesn't
That's
have to be
got
the
its
whole
own
con.
section.
They have whole cons for that. Fetish cons and things like that all around. I've heard about some amazing ones that I don't know. But I have not been. little worried. But at the same time, again, it just felt like they didn't take advantage. We looked at the programming. It felt a lot like fans who wanted something to be 18 plus to exist should just threw it together. Because it seems like anyone can start a convention.
I have half a mind too, gosh darn it.
Right? But with focus, right? Because we even talk about how you can bring professionalism to panels at conventions. It's not just the same tired panel every gosh darn convention you
Yeah,
go to.
like
'Cause to the
who would
point-
beat who, or
Yeah, well, to the point we don't go to panels often. Because they're so not a draw anymore. They're like, who cares? I hang out with friends.
Well-
you give me a panel that's interesting.
Zenko put on a panel and everyone loved it because it was about
Your guys' panel
basically
was awesome.
to learn how to create your the things to look at when creating a character for cosplay, or to when you're looking at a character to cosplay them. But I was thinking of, I could do a panel myself on the role of fan service as a storytelling device. It's
Exactly, right?
I mean, it has its purpose, it has its place, not just, the way we traditionally think of, ooh, look at this, nudity. I mean, if done right, it can be used as a very specific tool, but that would be a panel I'd like to do. And I
Absolutely.
would have expected to see things like that.
Well, let me talk about, and adults, right? 18 plus. So you can even time things back to when things started 18 years ago or more,
Yeah.
right? So you can talk about older subjects and the things, how it got to where it is today, and it's okay. You don't just have to cater to the popular current fandom, which is what bugs me so much, right? And we talked about some level. I don't even anime like I should because I'll avoid new anime because I hear too much about it. I see weebs running around gushing, and I will tell you, anyone who ships my characters pisses me off. Shipping is not a thing in my world. It's stupid, juvenile, and useless. It is. I don't like enough of what the storytellers told me that I am so selfish. I need this story to be told.
I mean, it's fan
It's-
fiction
yes,
and not well
it's
done.
Terrible. And I know there's good fanfic out there, but in general, the fandom you run into where it's kids running around just gushing and being loud and obnoxious about what they enjoy, it hurts people like me who are more subdued, who want to have
Yeah.
an intelligent conversation about what you loved about it, and can gush a bit of like, oh, it's amazing, the artwork and this and that, but the underlying themes of this and this are so much better.
Well, and that's something that I find a downside to a lot of cons, because you have a lot of, the average con goer is going to be, depending on the con, teenagers to young college age.
Yes.
And so their pool is pretty limited. I mean, because I've gone quite deep in, my anime exploration for genre, for type. So when I see all these people gushing about, the flavor of the month, it's more...
I love your responses to them.
This isn't great. I mean, I've seen a dozen anime better than this. You look a few years ago, you look maybe a decade or so. I mean, the themes are very similar. It's just not as well done.
Yeah, it's like, well, yes, I see what you did. It's the new art style, and you made characters that do this and this, which is popular today. But hey, have you seen this anime where it was in depth and went
Right.
through a storyline that will change your thoughts on the world or break your heart?
Right, they're character explorations. There's really spectacular stories out there. Things that, it's not really the flavor of the month. That for some reason, every time I see people gushing and I look at it and I'm thinking, I've seen dozens done much better. And
yeah, why is this so good?
actually, so I guess my nerd cred, I'm to the point where I can look at a preview or the animation type, and for the most part, I can know how I'm going to end up rating it on quality. Because you can tell a lot by, advertisements, the amount of time and effort they spend in pitching it in, a minute or two.
Yes.
That'll tell you about the quality of the show that's beneath it. It's kind of really interesting, but I've gotten to that point with anime.
That's
not
cool.
so much with other things.
Well, but I mean, we all have our niches to some degree. And that's the thing. So, Daku, part of it felt like there was no true overarching theme. Just calling something an 18 plus con doesn't make it a thing. Because there were a couple panels, but even then, and I will get flamed for this, I'm sure. We talked about this to some degree. It felt as though Daku was being put on by people. You guys are welcome to tease into the scene and be silly. This just ties to, since we don't have the hat on right now, hide to show your Freddy Krueger look, but I like that you, like Zenko's got the pace back. So the fun part is, as you guys have been doing your hair coloring, the chemistry and alchemy that's going on, for those in the video, you're getting a treat. But, well, everyone is now. Anyone watching YouTube, you're getting a treat with this.
Again, fan service as a storytelling device.
It does. It works. And depending on what you... Oh, God. We could... I'm sorry. Thoughts. You guys heard some of my story stuff earlier that won't be shared on air, but ideas that Wayne has. You just stand there. Look pretty. Yes. That's so
can do
bad.
that.
That's so bad.
I have to go do some more alchemy, so.
So one of these times, we'll just have that. We'll have the camera set up, and I'll just put a rack of hats on the corner. It'll just be you guys modeling. But
I love it.
it'll be the tea room, but here.
Good.
Sorry. But Daku felt to me like a fan-based convention. People who wanted something to be there and put it on. And this is where I get flamed. I appreciate people's viewpoints and the way they see the world. Again, and this one felt, because of the actual panels chosen, like it was a way for the LGBTQA community to forcibly put some things out there. Because they always show up at the cons and they're there and they're well represented. It's a big part of convention life. It's a strong community for it. But it seems so not what I want, uninspired.
So
for
that's
what I
why
saw
it
them
ended up being slightly misleading, I think, because if they had straight up advertised it as something like that,
Oh, it would've been popular
LGBTQA convention,
It would have been huge.
and you look at their panels, it was LGBTQA themes,
Yep.
and it had, I mean, a big part of it was a drag show,
Yep.
and even some of their vendors were more
Oriented towards that.
So rather
Which
than
does
being,
not mean 18 plus.
Right, it's
It
a little bit
means
different.
LGBTQA.
and had they been a little bit more, I don't want to say it's not
Upfront and honest
yeah,
about it,
Yeah,
it probably would have done better.
I think so.
Because instead what you got is this nebulous convention of people thinking maybe is it anime focused, maybe is it sci-fi focused, maybe is it nerddom focused, I don't know. And so you had representations of everything without any clear, concise theme.
So actually, what I could see them doing it actually, they'd actually be really good at it. Instead of being strictly a kind of hybrid anime type thing, they make it primarily LGBTQA, but cross fandoms.
Which you could do, because now you have a theme and a focus, and that whole community will come out strong for it.
Can
And
even
you
get
you could have LGBTQA, how it's shown in sci-fi, how it's shown in
I
popular
think you'd
media,
have
how it's shown in
someone-
music, how
Yes.
it's all those themes where people would be like, this is what I care about.
I'm sure a very famous Star Trek individual would be
All
up
about
for
it.
a guest.
Yes, heaven forbid you get George Takei to show up at a con, right? And come specific. There's so much you could do.
Now that would have been quite fascinating.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. I would go to that. And I'm not big in that community, right? So it's just like but that's the thing. This one I appreciate people trying, but it just felt lost in itself. And I didn't go. This was from hearing people how they talked about it. I showed up for a minute, seeing the costumes that were shown and things like that. People tried to make it of it what they could, but it sounded like people got bored quick, especially first con, and they did 3 days. It's going on right now. I don't know why anyone would be there.
It's too much.
It's just a challenge where they should have done it either as a 1 or 2 day con, because we talked 2 days would have been good, because you could have done that Friday night I stay at a hotel part instead of just show up for the day. You could have done that, but not had to belabor try to fit 3 days content in when you don't have it. And they didn't have a big dealer's presence. This was the opportunity where I saw that, okay, it's 18 plus. Pull out all the sex toys. Why not? Partner with Pleasures or Fascinations, one of these things that could have a booth in there instead of just like the one dildo vendor or something.
Or even
out
bring
your
the
anime community and have the true, well thought out hentai setups and stuff. Where again, this is an opportunity to shine the stuff that usually has to be downplayed in other conventions.
Well, I mean, there's a panel on hentai for the plot. I mean, do something like that. I mean, not just ones that are straight up. It's basically porn with a plot, but which ones are actually have a good story
porn
to
with
it.
a plot. What? And even good effects.
It's true.
It's weird.
They do stand apart when they actually try.
Are well made, and like I could almost just watch this as a film. There just happens to be nudity.
Right.
Need we talk about Kite? But sorry, the things you can love when others judge. But so I don't know. I am hopeful that it finds its legs, because I would like an honest to goodness 18 plus con here. For me, one of the things I would have liked to have seen. Oh my god, I would have liked to. A section of it that was 21 and plus that could have focused on drinking. Because I do like to party at cons and stuff, but do it where it's actually organized. Instead of this thing that people do it, but we'll leave that in their rooms and stuff. Because I know there's liability issues and stuff. It might not be easy, but do something where it's actually thoughtful. Where like, I would do a panel on like all the booze from different anime.
Yeah.
Right? Because people do food ones and stuff like that. It would be fun. People come and actually explore it, talk through it, why it mattered, and why it mattered in this region, why in Japanese culture it's this, why this one that's taken on American culture does this. There's so many ways you could do it. Or other things like that. Or just high society things, but from a 21 plus theme attached to the 18 plus con. There's just so many opportunities that I think were missed. Now, and maybe it's just the desire so heavily to have it without having really thought it out. Because we even talked about people don't run cons as businesses. They run them as we think it's just some fun thing to do. And it's why so many fail.
And everyone, this isn't a pet peeve of mine. Everyone tries to put them up as nonprofit organizations. Gosh darn it, stop it. No.
Exactly. Well, so Dragon Con. Oh my god, I love Dragon Con. I'll talk about it constantly. It is a family-friendly con throughout the thing, but they've had still kind of an unwritten rule that after about 9 o'clock, kids go to bed. And after that, the parties that go till 5 in the morning and later, people are getting crunk. There's people openly walking around getting drunk. Clothing becomes less of a family-friendly ordeal. Mm-hmm. And people are just having fun. Because it's one of the challenges I've always had in anything I love is that growing up geek, yes, I grew up geek. I grew up in the 80s and through the 90s. I'm now an adult. And a lot of the popular things today, it's like the Marvel movies and stuff like that I love, started in the 60s and 70s. Fans of them are adults. It is okay for me to be an adult and enjoy things, as adults do.
Right.
I don't have to cater to children's enjoyment of my things. And it just bugs me when we always go to that lowest common denominator that it's got to be family friendly.
True, and that brings a lot of things down because there are things that, I mean, there's lots of things you can't do anymore because,
Well,
think of the children.
Everything. Oh God, I hate that line. Yes, I will honestly. If you use that in an argument with me, I will curse you out, and I will say, "F the children, let them all die." Let's now have a constructive discussion about the actual subject and facts. Because when you say think about the children, it's an emotional response you're trying to get out for people to stop thinking rationally and to think emotionally. F that noise. I am not that person. So it just bothers me. It bothers me that I can't have like Cat Planet Cuties or Kite or something like that. It actually is a fully mature story that someone has to say, well, it's animated, therefore it's for kids. See, Japan figured this out a long time ago. They're like, no, we make adult stories and we happen to animate some of them.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. Anime is its own. I mean, it's not even a genre, but it's an entire medium form.
Yes, it's just animated way of expression. It's
so you usually get a couple brands of it. It's either it's animated, therefore it's a cartoon for kids. Some of them are, just like just forms of media. We have kids shows too. Then there's
absolutely.
the ones who are like, it's all porn. Well, no, in the same way that, you can't quite say just because most porn is filmed in California, all, Hollywood's porn. It just doesn't make sense.
People don't know about Highlands Ranch in Colorado. Sorry. And you made a great reference, because this is kind of like when we talk about esports and just loving video games and watching other people video games, trying it out and giving it a thing that matches with the masses. In the case here, and wow, we were having good conversation, that it's equating to sports ball, right? As we jokingly have the nerd community say, when I go to the football game this afternoon, it's the same thing. I'm watching people who aren't me play a game.
Yeah.
I'm paying money to see it. What? In the same sense of like, just that relation to normal things, when you said that us watching some of these animated series is so much like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, especially Game of Thrones, because that's nothing but TNA throughout the first season.
Yeah, we did.
Right? And people talk about like, it's no big deal. It's like, it's just porn. Hell, there's
porn with a plot.
I almost said it wrong, but there's little people porn in it.
Essentially,
right? Tyrion is killing everything.
Spartacus. That's another classic one,
which is awesome. But people will accept
again porn with a plot.
They're traditional, non-animative things, and they'll consider it. Oh, it's adult, this and that. Well, I need more of that in my life. Literature and just other things where it's okay because that's part of real life. People do these things.
And it's another important point. I mean, hey, just because there's nudity, just because there's sexual themes, just doesn't make it bad.
No,
I mean,
it's just
we're adults, darn it.
Yes, I happen to like the female form, especially when not clothed. Hey, sue me? I mean, yes.
Well, if Hollywood's any indication,
oh god,
what's going on now?
Oh no, it's so bad. Yeah, right. Hollywood, you self. Anyhow. So I just want to throw that out there in general, kind of some things about it with Daku, right? Wait, look again. Daku-Con. Please continue, but please find a voice and do what so many people fail to, and advertise it early and get it set up ahead of time. And hell, I'll be happy to help give you ideas. I'm good at that. I'm a muse. I will even do a reduced fee to give you ideas of how to make the con successful. I think Akko and I could work with you on that.
I swear.
And help you give some time and effort to say, here's the con we would go to.
Honestly, I swear that I just need to start a con. Actually try, darn it, start it and run it like
Do
a
exactly
business.
what we're saying we don't want people to keep doing. Don't everyone start a con. Just let us do it. We'll do it so much better. An intellectual con, like literature con?
Like bring in Ashmore Sensei and have him talk about it.
Like actual people coming in and talking from a
Helen?
depth level. So people we've seen at other conventions who have that really in-depth thought of it.
We were just talking about it.
Yeah, so there's...
So actually, at ACON, so we go to ACON.
I talked about it a little bit before, but please.
No, it's one of the things there. One of our professors, when we spent some time in Japan, brilliant guy. He studies Japanese culture as his career. So does this wonderful woman named Helen. But they're also massive nerds, and so at ACON, there's also an attachment, and I forget what it's called. It's called Fans, which is a collection of professors who talk about popular culture.
Awesome.
In this case, animation, Japanese themes, but in the context of literature, really more academic subjects. They present academic papers on it, and brings it to a different level. It's really great.
The fact that you can have depth to any of these things, and I would even love to see some of these regular shows, anime and things like that. Again, adult themed. I don't have to deal with the kids. Let's talk about real plots, real subtext. I love the things about Japanese culture, the things that you and Zenko have introduced me to about understanding the depth, even in like a silent voice, of why, because Japanese culture is the way it is, it's so meaningful.
Yeah.
I've understood and appreciated things so much more because of that little insight. Even just going to Japan for the month I did, and seeing how, no crap, this is how people interact. Mm-hmm. Watching other anime since then, I've been, oh wow, talk about slice of life. We just take it for granted. This is really their daily life.
Right, because it's not all light and fluff and, high school dramas. No, there's also, really interesting things, Japanese racism in Japan.
Yes,
there's
nicest
depression,
racist people in the world.
Suicide, poor treatment
The fact
and
that they still have
marginalization.
that teen suicide is still the number one killer of teens in Japan.
Oh, they're one on top in the
It's
world.
suicide. And I mean, Suicide Forest, things like that. But I mean, they talk about why, the stresses and stuff on it. And you'll catch that in some anime. That's like with the Silent Voice, the fact that he was so ready to kill himself.
Well, just bullying.
Yeah, just for the life and growing up, which is like, holy crap. Which speaks even to the stuff we deal with. Oh gosh, I am animated today. Hi. I want to transition off of this to a degree because we have another subject we want to get all up in.
More animated about
More animated, but more gaming related. So, we're going to do one more transition here and switch things over and go with...
Technology, news, and more. Today on the Geekoscope.
So, on the Geekoscope, wonderful. That is a look. Now, you'll have to get in frame because you're cut off at the neck. So, just come in real quick and get low.
Getting slide of the
There
blue
it is.
steel look
There
there.
it is. Look at that. Look at that. A little bit of
Blue
face.
steel.
You gotta-
No. There we go. Blue steel.
Got to work it. I forget the line. What is it? You got to think about, or be a dragon. What was that? A dragon, but
I can't even remember.
darn it! It's like be a dragon,
So
but a dragon
ridiculous.
that's like got feelings. I forget what it was. Anyhow, thank you for that.
I'm leaving.
So the subject we wanted to bring up is one that's been going around the multiplayer gaming community for some time. And fine, I won't use that article if you don't let me ad block.
Yeah,
Huh.
Forbes is bad about that.
That's true. I mean, a traditional media source. Anyhow, one of the things we want to talk about was a general new trend. It's been around far too long and is far too engaged, which is that of loot boxes
Microtransactions.
and microtransactions in multiplayer gaming.
And so I saw an article on this a little while back, and it's basically this is not going away. And the reason why is there was an article about, I think it was an EA, it wasn't an executive that left and was talking about it, how
The strategy they have for future gaming, where they're even going to get rid of single player gaming in most cases, or not focus on it,
because it's not valuable.
because the money they make off of microtransactions and off of loot crates, which is a microtransaction, far outweighs the individual sales of games.
Yeah, they had talked about, I think it was for Mass Effect Andromeda, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that they're basically chasing whales, and the whales that spend upwards of $15,000 on microtransactions. So when you think about it that way, all you need is a handful of players to spend large sums of money you don't really need everyone paying, $60 a
Yeah,
game. They
it's-
don't really care. Why? Because you can just keep adding things that will continue to bring in revenue. And the way things are going, both for, actually, it's a common trend both across media and games. Why would you be doing these things called stories where it's kind of one shot and, one person buys it and darn, they might sell it to someone else? Well, if it's tied to multiplayer, where they're going to keep paying for additional items, new skins, now
New
bonuses
maps.
in game.
Okay, so this is where we get to the actual thoughts of this. This all started with a trend back in the day that I complained about even way back when, which is DLC. The idea that you could produce, and it goes even further back to constantly connected multiplayer, or not multiplayer, online connectivity for consoles is I think what started the death trend for this.
Yeah.
That I could now produce something far too quickly, realize it was broken, and then patch it the day it was released, and then have a good product. And so it started the trend of developers getting really lazy. And in doing so, part of that laze was how do I make the most money I can for what I'm producing? Instead of producing a thing like a Skyrim or, back to before that with Oblivion, something that I could easily drop 100+ hours into for a concise full story that is well crafted and beautiful and has anything else on it. Yet actually still bucked the trend a little. Well, they were actually on the cusp of where it went bad. Where they had a combination of good DLC, fan-made things, and then DLC like horse armor.
Well, Bethesda's
kind of on the cusp of all
they
this. Or
they
back and
hit a
forth.
bit of a landmine, but it goes all the way back to the original expansion packs.
So expansion packs, but you say original. My gold standard for expansion packs was like the original expansion pack for StarCraft.
Yes.
StarCraft had Brood Wars,
Yep.
and it was almost an entirely separate game
Yes.
when you released it. It was Warcraft 3 and then Frozen Throne.
Yep.
Those were full expansions.
You're right. They're basically new games,
And you
that-
pay slightly less than full price for almost the exact same content you got from the original game. Just on an already built engine and already built characters, so they were just providing more levels and story. And so it basically was additional money where they were still making a profit because they had already ate all the research costs in the original game development. For new engines, for the production of the models, all that stuff, the music and things. They had to produce a little more music maybe, put the campaigns and story writing together, but they didn't have to create it all from scratch. So it worked. They made
did.
just as much money off expansion packs, maybe even more, doing that time frame and that way of doing it.
And of course, what does it say? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. That's kind of where things started going awry because obviously they're businesses, and yes,
And yes, they need to make money.
I
Fine.
work with businesses a lot. I understand profit is important. Profit is a thing. However,
Integrity.
when you start getting to the modern idea of business, we don't really need to make necessarily great things.
You bull.
We just need to make things to convince people to buy, or rather to get people addicted to certain things in certain ways. So rather, they're jumping on the World of Warcraft trick, which is
where I say Blizzard failed the world.
I mean, it was so wildly successful, everyone else started to
They
want to
wanted
play
it.
catch up.
We need to do that. It's a
How did
monthly
they
subscription.
succeed?
They're making billions of dollars per month because they keep selling these subscriptions. We want to be that.
So then you have the subscription model. Wait a second. Instead of packaging this one game that we pay one time, hold it. What if we can get people to pay a lot, like
Consistently,
regularly,
over and over.
without having to make a whole new thing? And so
So-
there's kind of another step down the dark road that we find ourselves
gosh.
here.
And it's important to say that because these are all factors in what brought us to the state we're in today. And I don't think, honestly, have enough time to go into all the levels of it, but just as a quick aside to where we got here, it came from expansion to be able to do that. It came from subscription models where I can get more and more money from a single content without really changing much.
But they did it for good reasons, though. I mean, hey, we got
To
servers,
maintain
right?
Servers and keep it, and every once in a while we'll do updates and kind of little things.
Keep
to
it
make bugs
ongoing
all patched
patches.
and we'll give you little bits of content here that. Oh, by the way, we're also going to make you spend because Blizzard is the worst company for. You will buy it and pay for it monthly and pay for the additional pieces.
They don't like doing sales, by the way.
Well, because it's even like what was stated in here by Tromat. On top of that, some people pay for the sub for XP bonuses.
Yes, and that's the next step down. I mean, the
So
other steps down the dark road.
So where we were trying to focus on for this discussion was where we are today with the current trend. So this is all stuff that's led to where we are today, and we can go. Each one of those is a good half-hour topic.
Oh, yeah.
Of each step of what that did to our gaming. Today we suffer from loot crates.
Yep.
and XP boosts. essentially.
Microtransactions.
Things where in very popular and mostly multiplayer games, because it is something where you want to come back to and play it more and more and get some level of a continued return on your investment. And it sucks because people are willing to, and this has happened forever with people buying tunes and accounts from EVE players, from WoW players, stuff, and I have more money than time.
Yep.
And so I want all the benefits of people who play all day because they have no jobs and their kids and such, but I can't. So I'm willing to spend some funds to get some of those perks and get up to that same level of competitiveness or edge in a game.
And make no mistake, I love multiplayer. But
Love
the reason,
multiplayer.
so if you've
Played
noticed,
PUBG today and we
maybe
didn't
if you
talk
haven't
about
noticed, a lot of games are starting to have multiplayer thrown in, even if it doesn't necessarily belong there.
Yeah.
Why? It's because that's the model they're moving towards. Because single-player stories don't really make as much money.
They're expensive to make, and they take time and a lot of forethought where you can make... Because you don't need story in multiplayer, often.
Some loose story, maybe.
Well, especially, I'll put it with the arena games. With the traditional, like, Quake Champions, with League of Legends and Dota, with... and Heroes of the Storm, with, like, Overwatch and Squad and... Oh gosh, what's the one? Lawbreakers and all these other constant like multiplayer games where it's all about that instance of multiplayer. You now get to get rid of story writers. You get to get rid of a lot of the music. I mean, you have background music, stuff like that, but you focus on environments, gameplay, models, and things like
Limits
that.
cost, increases profits.
And so you reduce some of the general upfront cost, and you get to do a bigger tail on long-term funds in what you produce from it. Now, I will say this: I'm not against the business model.
No.
What I am challenged with, and I think a lot of people run into this, is a theory or concept of pay to win.
Yeah. That's where things are coming now.
And what my definition of that is anything you can do in game where if you use money versus time and skill gives you an advantage over someone who doesn't have the money to spend.
Ordinarily, though, we had seen it in the context of free-to-play games.
Normally, as games you didn't
Before.
pay anything for. And so, yeah, you're kind of like, oh, microtransactions weren't terrible. I have argued forever that there are games where I don't believe they're pay to win. I will still argue that League of Legends is not pay to win. People have argued because you can get access to champs faster that it is, but I've said no, because none of the gameplay mechanics are affected by your money at all. You can more rapidly get to level 30 and thus open up game modes and ranked play and stuff like that with the XP boosts. You can more rapidly unlock additional champs.
You're going to
but
do
if you-
horribly.
But if you only ever have 5 champs you play effectively, then you can get that pretty damn quick. So I
Just
will
having the
always
champ
argue
doesn't actually mean you're going to
you're
win
gonna
at
good
it.
at it or anything, yeah.
There's mechanics and skill
Oh,
behind
and
it.
learning and playing. You still have to have skill in the game. So I don't believe it affects the gameplay. So I will still argue League of Legends is not pay to win. But now we're getting to this weird nuance with games like Overwatch for one. The one that most people are talking about right now is Battlefront 2.
Yes.
Which, Hando, you brought up because Star Wars comes out next month. Can't effing wait. Have tickets for the premiere already. And I'm excited, and I like the idea of Battlefront. I played the demo for Battlefront 2. It was gorgeous. I loved it. It was great.
Oh, it's fun.
But, and this goes to the same thing, Overwatch is huge right now, and I enjoy it. I play it some on occasion. It's beautiful. But, the challenge is they have this concept of loot crates, which goes a step even weirder than regular traditional just buying something in-game as a bonus.
So, Loot Crates is obnoxious because what they have found out is it's a way to maximize revenue.
Absolutely.
Why? Because so they staunchly defend that it's not gambling, so they don't run afoul of
How many articles that come
state
up with
law
that come up
regulations
saying that?
or federal regulations. They try so hard, but at its
Yeah, here it is.
core, you are gambling.
I
You're
have
rolling
like 3
virtual
or 4
dice.
when I searched just for the problem with loot boxes. And I got 3 or 4 articles that came up and basically said, and this one from fandom.com, or fandom.wikia.com, it says, the blurred line between loot boxes and gambling. And so their little article, I'll read a piece of it here, says, from FIFA to Forza, it seems like almost every AAA game has a loot box monetization system these days. Publishers are tripping over themselves to implement randomized reward schemes, and it's no mystery why. They're extremely effective at making money. So, with this in mind, Activision Blizzard made $3.6 billion from in-game purchases in 2016. Double the previous year's figures.
Notice that is not game sales. That is in-game purchases. Again, it's wildly successful. So there's no, I mean, as much as we want to, talk badly about it, it's very clear why they're doing it. It works. It makes a lot of money. Why does it work? It's the idea of random rewards.
But the problem is with loot crates. So, like in
I hate
Overwatch,
it.
when you finish a match, depending on what to do, you'll get a crate on occasion, and it's randomized. You may get some sprays, some skins, some, different voice packs, things like that. Fine.
Yeah.
However, in Star Wars Battlefront 2,
They took it a step further.
you can get bonuses and things that you put on your weapons that give you advantage.
So I looked at it, and there's very significant differences between. So you can grind, sure. You can get the same. You can get
Gear
the same
from playing a
same
lot.
gear, but you have direct in-game bonuses for what's in these loot crates.
Once
And
you go beyond cosmetics in any, especially competitive type or multiplayer where you're against other people, I always argue it's one thing if it's cooperative. If I want to mod the hell out of Diablo 3 to allow me to cheat my way through the game because it's just how me and my 3 friends or whatever, or I mod it for 8 friends, want to play the game because it only affects us, I don't care. It's why I love Bethesda for Skyrim Oblivion. Here, mod the hell out of it. Give yourself the best gear day 1 if you want. Just go into the INI and spawn it. It's your game. Who cares? Once you get multiplayer, once you get away from co-op, where it's now competitive and there's actually win-lose situations, it needs to be balanced. It needs to be
Right.
even.
So the difference between level 1 and level 4 bonuses are tremendous. So
Ooh.
what happens is, and they've done this on purpose, and that's why they like some of the top streamers. Why? Because they have the ability and willingness to dump a ton of money on those crates day 1, so they can have an immense advantage
or
over
they can
people.
be sponsored, or the companies can provide them with accounts that have them all, or whatever you want to call it.
But still, they
It's an
do have
edge.
in-game an edge, so what happens is, eventually people will catch up.
Yep.
But by that point, you've already developed such a massive skill gap that you practically cannot keep
It's
up.
a huge hill to climb after that. And the problem becomes, gosh, how do I equate it?
Well, have you ever tried jumping in a Battlefield game, maybe a year after release? It's like that. Only
it
day
isn't-
1.
It isn't, because there's two things, right? Because now, granted, Battlefield does have the problem where you can open up a
I love
bunch of
Battlefield.
stuff. I do too. For me, it was Call of Duty. Black Ops 2 is the epitome of my FPSing and my group that I play with. Black Ops 2, we were king. We are really good at that game still. People would bitch because of the things you could open up in the game for different weapons, this and that, and you could prestige and do all this. My challenge was always, yes, attachments were a little bit like that, but you could play the game and open them up fairly quickly. And we had friends who'd bitch because they never play. We'd play multiplayer at LAN parties, and they'd be mad because we had all this stuff. But if you played, and we played a lot of times in hardcore, where any bullet will drop you. And in doing so, I play still on, and I give Call of Duty credit for Black Ops 2 because they had loadouts that were base loadouts that had a lot of that stuff already built into it as though you had unlocked them. So until you unlocked them yourself, you could play with a base loadout. It may not be ideal to your gaming strategy, but you had some of the benefits. They were as competitive as any other thing. It's like MechWarrior Online. MechWarrior Online, you can build and kit out a perfect battle mech. Costs a lot of money and time to do so, or you can pay real money to get it, get platforms before, but there's no real benefit other than certain chassis will give you XP bonuses and C-build bonuses, but it wasn't made where you're the only one who could use this weapon or something like that. So I could still load in with a free-to-play mech and wreck a $100 mech that somebody built and they paid real money for. And thus, it's fair. And that's where there's this weird balance. Because Battlefront 2 has loot crates that can provide you bonuses that are damage bonuses, reload bonuses. What are some of the other kind of things?
So what it is, it's not like passive bonuses so much, or rather they are passive, but they're not like, one-time consumables.
no, they're consistently on
They're-
the weapon.
They have this weird card system that you attach to your character, and these cards have bonuses depending on how leveled they are. And you level those cards up through things you get through the loot crates. So obviously, if you have a lot more loot crates, you get more cards
The
and
chance
can
to
level
get
them up more.
specific cards is much higher.
Also, again, it's a chance, which makes you need to buy more to get the thing you want,
Thus,
which pisses me off.
Where it equates to gambling. Because the challenge there is day one, someone could drop $1,000 on a game and have all of the perks. And thus, when you go as a new player in the same day against them, they have actual competitive advantages in the game of damage multipliers, the amount of
Cooldown
crits-
reduction, repair rate.
Yeah, so overall DPS can be significantly higher. The amount of damage they can absorb can be significantly higher. Their ability in some cases to move, dodge, do other things, even have abilities
their
can
ability
be
cooldowns.
advantages. And it would be like, if you were to equate it to League of Legends, it would be like starting a match where your character is already level 18, your champ, versus level 1 and having to play through the progression of the game to get there. Well, you may be able to win that match, but if you went into a match
darn,
where
that's not gonna be fun.
the enemy team is all level 18 and you start level 1, good luck. And that's the feel of it, right? As you equate it to other games where with progression. That developers are consciously allowing and advertising it for players to spend extra money to gain advantage in the game.
And here's the tragic thing. I mean, something like that makes me want to just straight up refuse to buy it. The
We
thing
haven't
is,
bought Battlefront 2 yet, and it
it
looks
doesn't
gorgeous.
matter. I'm not their target market.
You're right. Like you said from the get-go, there is a very finite group of people they're after. As you said, the whales.
Yep.
Because I think you had done metrics and saw something that's like one whale can equate to like 100 players.
Well, just do simple math. Divide, let's say someone spends 1,000 on the game, just divide that by 60, and that's,
At
profit
minimum,
difference.
how much people would have done. let
Except
alone-
you don't need to distribute it.
Yeah, it's just.
And that's
there.
so that's something that EA's doing. They said they were that they were considering not doing the yearly, FIFA and sports updates.
They were talking
Why?
about doing less. Yeah.
Because they were going to put it in game. They're going to have the same platform, and then you just update the
so I
year
will tell
pack.
you, that I actually appreciate. Of the few types of DLC or update type material that companies can put out, sports titles should have been doing this first.
It's true.
Most games barely change their engine every 2 to 3 years. All people really want is an updated roster.
See, now that's clever because now that one's actually smart, and I am on board with that one. Why?
Because $15 for a new roster for the new season, I think I'd be okay with.
They can cut out the massive distribution packs. They can cut out their distribution deals with Walmart, Target, whatever.
Saving everybody money and still providing it at a reasonable price.
Right. So then you can have, you just have an updated year, with the updated roster, uniforms,
Yep.
whatever you want to do, and you don't need to spend massive
That would be
distribution.
the almost actual definition of a season pass.
So I saw people getting upset about that, but I was thinking, no, that's actually
so brilliant.
That's what they needed
I
to
don't
do.
need a Madden every damn year. You don't need to put someone on the cover and ruin their sports career every year. You can, and with the curse, you can actually just provide updated information.
Yeah. And there you go. There's your season pass. Oh, I bought 16 season pass. Oh, I need to
Right?
buy 17.
Well, so here's a beautiful thing about this. Heaven forbid. What if you could buy a season pass for 5 years?
Yeah.
And if they happen to release a new updated full version of the game 3 years in, you still have 2 years of a season pass.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's
Amy.
where they needed. That's what
So
needed
you
to
can
happen
send
about
your
a decade
things
ago.
in PayPal to showx at vtwproductions.com or join our Patreon if you'd like to support the kind of decisions and ideas we come up with. One-time donations are fine, especially in large amounts. See, I'll just straight up whore for it. But it's just it hurts me in a lot of ways because it makes me feel like the soul of some of these things going away. That we're getting away from creative people wanting to create this gem of a story. One of the things I'm doing through Geek Cred, if you look at my channel, if Doc Dead on Twitch, is I haven't played it consistently. I've been busy with all kinds of things, but I'm playing through all of the original Zelda games in order. I skipped 1 and 2 because I wanted to go straight to the 3D platform because I had beaten 1 and 2 originally when they came out. So I started with Ocarina of Time and finished that. I'm now on Majora's Mask. These are examples of games that have so much depth, and I have to give Nintendo credit for producing some really amazing, dungeon crawl type games. They really did good. I am scared in this environment with companies making those decisions that they're not going to release single player content, that we're going to lose stories. We're going to lose the ability to play through an interactive, in-depth story that I can lose hundreds of hours in and get really just in love with a world, with characters, with gameplay and stuff like that. That I'm going to be left with these trivial 30-minute or less experiences, while entertaining and fun to be playing against real people, don't expand my view of the world. Don't provide me with memorable characters that I can go back to years from now and share an experience with people to say, it's one thing, I get a hoot out of some fun multiplayer things that happen.
Oh, heck yeah.
But
Owning
they're not-
someone is best in the world.
Well, but they're not shared experiences. In the same sense of everybody can talk about the challenge they had going through Water Temple.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can talk about the plot twist that occurred when you found out that, the Sheikah character that had been helping you throughout Ocarina, spoiler, was Zelda, right? everybody can appreciate those combined stories. Where if it's multiplayer, just this, yep, I remember on this map when I threw a grenade and it happened to kill 10 people.
Well, so it's a positive shared experience. We'll compare it with, say, multiplayer, where you have this meta, and you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that time when, X weapon was the meta and was just kind of killing everyone, and you had to take it. And
I remember, what was it still, the one I always bring up from League of Legends from way back, it was the heart container one. That they took out, the Chrysalis something. It was the one that every time you cast an ability, it gave you some mana and health back.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. And it broke on Sona. Because when they released Sona, you're like, so basically, I leveled this up by face rolling the keyboard and casting every spell I can as soon as I can.
Oops.
And they had to take it out of the game. It's never come back. So you're right. The meta can be memorable, but experiences in the game...
Not necessarily in a positive way.
You're
though.
right. But, so I remember when Warwick was officially, this kind of character originally. I remember... Anyhow. So I'm just worried that we're not going to get those solid single-player games anymore because so much money is driving that it's not that you won't find them. And I thank God for Steam and indie games and stuff like that because thank God for the indie community producing good games with all the story and heart they could ever want. But AAA titles that get all the funding and advertising, what people as a group speak will understand, are going to suffer where it's like, well, the publisher or the developer isn't going to greenlight something that doesn't have some kind of additional funding line built into its strategy.
Well, that's what kind of EA's been doing. Some of the bigger studios, what they do is they look for successful titles and then they buy the company. So it's an ongoing joke that they buy a company and then execute them. All they're really doing is buying the property.
IPs. Yeah,
they're not buying the company.
No.
The company is just a
They don't
useless
care.
shell.
It's what
They're
you
just
own.
buying the game property.
Yep.
So the title that they can then use in their own way.
It hurts, right? Am I the only one, or are Akko and I just old? And so we lament this change? Because I'll tell you, I like PUBG. We played it today. I mean, I suffer for it because it's painful when one poor decision on the team causes everyone to just wipe, or unfortunate situation happens, and all of a sudden the game that you've invested a half hour in just goes to crap, or you die in the first 5 minutes and the rest of your team does well. There's a lot of aspects that make PUBG not the best game ever, but it's still fun.
And make no mistake, multiplayer is fun.
I love multiplayer, love co-op, love competitive. One of my favorite experiences is old school Unreal Tournament Deathmatch. Not even team deathmatch. The deathmatch where I'm better than you, so I will win. I want to be top of the ladder. I love that crap. Holy cow. I do. I fear that I'm not going to get a solid new Bethesda game in the world of Elder Scrolls.
It
Because
is
they tried
worrying.
going online, MMO, with MMO stuff.
And then you have Bethesda that tried to make it a closed universe, basically with their quote-unquote approved mods. So they wanted to collect the cash and limit the modding community. Fortunately, the modding community
Rejected
tends
that.
to be very angry, which is positive.
Thank you, modding community. And it's been a long time since we've talked about modding community on the show, where I love the modding community. I love indie developers. Admittedly, I get lost in it too because I love pretty graphics. But if I hear enough goodness about a game, hell, how many hours have we put into Duck Game on VTW? And that is the most indie BS little experience ever. And it's not a story, it's just a fun experience.
The duck just messing around with the farmer.
No, Duck Game is one where it's literally a multiplayer shooter that is super tiny and it switches levels randomly between, and you get like weapons you have to pick up and just go kill each other.
Because I was gonna say, I saw an indie game
Fun.
where you're a goose and you're screwing
I
with
know
a
what
farmer.
you're talking about, yes. Where you actually chasing the farm around, honking, go around, you're evil.
You're just
yes,
being-
I have seen that.
Just being obnoxious.
I have seen that. So, no, I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard that the new Call of Duty World War II, the single player is good. I heard a lot of people actually talk about they loved it. I am very curious with Battlefront 2, the single player. More so than the multiplayer. Like, I'd love to come back and play multiplayer. I want to play the space battles, but I heard the single player game is actually good.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hours are in it because I still struggle with price per dollar for your experience, or per hour kind of thing, where if it's a 4-hour experience for a single player game I play $60 for, I'm not going to love it.
Right.
I still love the benchmark of, and I know this is unrealistic for FPSs, but Skyrim and Oblivion of 100 hours plus for the game types.
Oh, big time. And
Love
sure,
that.
you can easily
Shadows of Mordor,
You can beat
Darkstalkers,
that
Dark
with,
Souls,
you know,
all those.
multiplayer.
I mean, Dark Souls, all those. You can. But I still want at least probably a 10-hour game out of my single player, at least, right?
Yeah.
Give me 10 hours. And I say that because, honestly, if you play them hardcore, you can get 10 hours done pretty fast.
Yeah.
In most first persons. Even the ones I nostalgically remember as being better. But
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. That's what we're fighting with. We have reached the end of the show today. It's been a fun ride. I really appreciate it, Akko, because this made it just fly through. I would really love to get your guys' opinions. Please let me know what your thoughts on where multiplayer is going. Is it going to ruin the industry? Are we really going to see a death of single player? Can we get through microtransactions in a positive way? Can we allow developers to still create things but leave it on our choice as to whether we need to buy more or not? What do we as fans need to express to ensure that we continue to get the kind of entertainment we so desperately crave? Because damn it, I'm a geek and I want to keep loving this.
I was gonna say, or it's totally okay to take the opposite approach. We're having nostalgia rose-colored glasses. That's.
Are we wrong?
Are we just kind
behind?
of whining for the good old days?
Yeah,
that weren't actually
legit,
good, or
right? Well, as we talked about, millennials can't remember. We could be wrong. I always challenge people my age and older to say, millennials are our fault. Millennials didn't ask for trophies for participation. We gave it to them because people wanted to be nice. It's our fault. My generation's fault. And older. But, so anyhow, it's the end of the show. Akko, I want to give you an opportunity to pimp all the things that you have going on and kind of tell some people, especially Guildhall and things like that, just where they can go, what they can see, what you guys are doing.
Sure. So the big thing we're doing right now, Zenko, is we're in the process of creating Guildhall Galatea. So we're going to bring a creator space to Denver, the Denver area. So creator space where you can have access to interesting tools that you might not have on your own. So fancy 3D printers, laser engravers, but both for individuals and for small businesses. So a little bit different from just, this is a cool hobby. Well, maybe if you want to make name tags, but you can't spend for the, $500 or, $500 minimum for a place, but you want to try to do it on your own. Or maybe you just want to learn. That's the kind of thing that we're working on building. So Guildhall Galatea has a survey available if you're in the Denver area, or not. If you've encountered other creator spaces, you can weigh in. There's a survey. It's on Facebook, so it's Guildhall Galatea. And I also have just a small blog that I update when I can. It's
really good.
Akko Anime, because I'm closing in. Well, I've watched over 300 anime titles. But I'm closing in on 300 discrete series, not including shorts and movies. So that's kind of another thing that I do as well.
Absolutely. And look forward to that, especially if you're in the Denver area, because the Guildhall as a makerspace is going to be phenomenal. Oh! Okay, I'm going to pause that and go back to that because I actually was realizing we just barely went over and I had it queued up perfectly for it. Anyhow. That's the end of the show. It is time for us to go listen to all things, I would say, on VTWProductions.com, but our listening is broken right now, so we'll figure that out. If not, though, please go out there and share this episode and all the others of Show X and our channel of VTW Videos to the YouTube channel on your social media to let people know about our show. Since we were likely going to be transitioning primarily over to a video show, we'd like to hear more feedback about what you like, dislike, or what you'd like to know, and whether it's still valuable for us to go back in, because I haven't for months, and put up the RSS feed of the audio channels. I can pull the audio out of these video ones and still produce them, but I need to know if this is something people are actually consuming, or am I just doing the effort because I think that's what people want. So I definitely want to have feedback. Please send it in at showx@vtwproductions.com or check it out on our Facebook page. With that, please also jump into the forums and please go and participate in the art contest. I know Ken will be disheartened if we don't get some more entries in there, and I am guilty as well because I should have done more. But with that, thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you again next week, and we will see you guys later. All right, have a good weekend. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. See you in the next zombie.